The Iraqi foreign exchange market opened Wednesday with a noticeable shift in sentiment, as the US dollar recorded a decline against the Iraqi dinar in both Baghdad and Erbil. According to the latest market survey, the dollar was trading around 153,000 Iraqi dinars per 100 US dollars, reflecting a lower opening compared with the previous trading session. While the movement may appear modest on paper, even relatively small changes in Iraq's parallel market are closely monitored by traders, businesses, importers, and ordinary citizens because they often provide insight into market confidence and short-term expectations. The latest figures indicate that Baghdad's major currency trading centers, including the Al-Khifa and Al-Harithia exchanges, recorded the dollar at 153,300 dinars per 100 US dollars. This represents a decline from Tuesday's level of 153,700 dinars per $100. The decrease of approximately 400 dinars per $100 suggests that the market opened with slightly stronger demand for the Iraqi dinar or reduced pressure on the US dollar during the early hours of trading. Meanwhile, exchange shops throughout Baghdad reflected the same downward trend. Selling prices for the US dollar were reported at approximately 153,750 dinars per $100, while buying prices stood around 152,750 dinars. As is normally the case, there remains a spread between buying and selling prices, allowing exchange businesses to manage market risk while providing liquidity for customers. The spread also reflects normal operating conditions within Iraq's currency exchange sector. In the Kurdistan region, Erbil experienced a similar pattern. Currency exchange offices reported selling prices of approximately 153,150 dinars per 100 US dollars and buying prices around 153,050 dinars. The relatively narrow gap between buying and selling prices indicates stable trading conditions and suggests that dealers are not experiencing unusual volatility during the opening session. Whenever the parallel market records a movement like this, many observers immediately begin asking whether the decline represents the beginning of a larger trend or simply a routine daily fluctuation. At this stage, there is no official indication that the market is entering a period of dramatic change. Currency markets naturally experience daily movements influenced by supply and demand, liquidity conditions, commercial activity, seasonal factors, and market expectations. One of the key reasons investors and citizens monitor these numbers so closely is the continuing difference between Iraq's official exchange rate and the parallel market rate. The official exchange rate established by the Central Bank of Iraq remains separate from the market prices quoted by private exchange companies. The parallel market reflects real-time trading activity among exchange houses and businesses, where demand for physical US dollars can fluctuate throughout the day. Importers are among the first groups to react whenever exchange rates move. Since many Iraqi businesses depend on imported goods ranging from food products to electronics and construction materials, changes in the dollar's value directly affect purchasing costs. A lower dollar in the parallel market can reduce import expenses if the trend continues, potentially easing some pressure on retail prices. However, businesses generally avoid adjusting prices based on a single day's movement, preferring to wait until they see whether a trend becomes more established. Retail consumers also pay close attention to these developments because exchange rate movements can influence the prices of everyday goods. Iraq imports a large portion of consumer products, making exchange rates an important factor in determining overall market costs. Even though today's decline is relatively modest, many shoppers and business owners will continue watching upcoming sessions for confirmation of whether the market is stabilizing at lower levels. For currency traders, today's opening represents another reminder that the Iraqi foreign exchange market remains active and responsive to changing conditions. Dealers continuously monitor buying and selling pressure throughout the day. If more sellers enter the market than buyers, the dollar may continue weakening. Conversely, if demand for dollars increases later in the session, some or all of the morning decline could be reversed before markets close. Another important consideration is liquidity. The availability of US dollars within the market plays a major role in determining exchange rates. When dollar supply improves, either through banking channels or increased market availability, downward pressure on prices often follows. On the other hand, tighter supply can quickly push rates higher. Therefore, Traders typically avoid drawing major conclusions from early morning figures alone. Commercial banks and licensed financial institutions also play a role in shaping overall market conditions. Their ability to process foreign currency transactions efficiently helps support liquidity within Iraq's financial system. Improvements in banking operations can contribute to greater confidence among market participants, reducing unnecessary speculation and helping stabilize exchange rates over time. Government policy also remains an important backdrop. Iraqi authorities have repeatedly emphasized the importance of maintaining monetary stability while strengthening confidence in the national currency. Various financial reforms introduced over recent years have focused on improving transparency, regulating currency transactions, and ensuring compliance with international financial standards. Although these reforms often take time to produce measurable results, they remain central to Iraq's long-term economic strategy. Many analysts caution against interpreting every daily movement as evidence of a major economic shift. Foreign exchange markets naturally respond to numerous short-term factors that may have little lasting significance. Business payments, import settlements, salary distributions, banking operations, and temporary changes in demand can all influence prices during individual trading sessions without altering the broader market trend. Seasonal commercial activity also deserves consideration. Different times of the month often produce varying levels of demand for foreign currency. Importers may increase purchases ahead of shipment deadlines, while businesses settling international invoices can temporarily raise dollar demand. Once these transactions are completed, demand frequently returns to more normal levels. Market psychology is another factor influencing exchange rates. Expectations alone can sometimes move prices even before any fundamental changes occur. If traders believe additional dollar supply will enter the market, some may begin selling earlier, contributing to lower prices. Conversely, concerns about future shortages can encourage increased buying activity. These psychological dynamics are common in foreign exchange markets worldwide and are not unique to Iraq. Today's lower opening may therefore reflect a combination of routine supply and demand adjustments rather than any single economic event. Without additional supporting evidence over multiple trading sessions, it would be premature to describe the decline as the beginning of a sustained trend. Businesses operating across Iraq will likely continue monitoring exchange rates throughout the week before making significant financial decisions. Many wholesalers purchase inventory using foreign currency, meaning even relatively small exchange rate changes can influence operating costs. Stable or declining dollar prices generally provide greater planning certainty for companies managing import budgets. Export-oriented sectors also monitor currency developments, although Iraq's economy remains heavily dependent on oil exports priced internationally in US dollars. Oil revenues continue to represent the country's primary source of foreign currency income, making global energy markets an important long-term factor influencing Iraq's overall financial position. Although today's report focuses specifically on domestic currency trading, international financial conditions remain relevant. Movements in global interest rates, energy prices, international investment flows, and regional economic developments can all indirectly affect market sentiment within Iraq. However, daily fluctuations in Iraq's parallel market often reflect local supply and demand conditions more directly than broader international events. Another reason today's figures have attracted attention is the consistency between Baghdad and Erbil. Both markets reported lower dollar prices, suggesting the movement was relatively broad-based rather than isolated to one geographic region. Similar pricing across multiple trading centers generally indicates that market participants are responding to common factors affecting overall currency availability and demand. Exchange shop operators typically remain cautious during periods of changing prices. Rather than taking aggressive positions, many dealers closely observe customer activity before adjusting their own quotations. This measured approach helps reduce risk while maintaining sufficient liquidity for normal business operations. Ordinary citizens exchanging relatively small amounts of currency may notice only limited immediate financial impact from today's movement. Nevertheless, frequent market updates remain important because they help individuals plan travel, education expenses abroad, medical payments, and other transactions requiring foreign currency. The Central Bank of Iraq continues to emphasize that official monetary policy aims to preserve financial stability while supporting confidence in the Iraqi dinar. Officials have consistently encouraged reliance on official information rather than rumors circulating through unofficial channels. This remains particularly important whenever exchange rate discussions generate increased public attention. Financial experts often remind the public that currency markets should be evaluated using longer-term trends rather than isolated daily changes. A single trading session rarely provides sufficient evidence to determine future direction. Instead, analysts typically examine several weeks of data alongside broader economic indicators before reaching meaningful conclusions about market trends. The decline observed this morning therefore represents one data point within an ongoing sequence of market activity. Whether the dollar continues moving lower, stabilizes around current levels, or recovers later in the week will depend on evolving supply and demand conditions, commercial transactions, banking activity, and broader market confidence. Import companies may welcome today's lower prices, especially if they anticipate making significant foreign currency purchases in coming days. Reduced exchange costs can improve budgeting and potentially support lower import expenses if the trend proves sustainable. However, prudent financial managers generally avoid assuming that short-term movements will continue indefinitely. Small businesses operating throughout Iraq also face important decisions regarding inventory purchases and pricing strategies. Stable exchange rates provide a more predictable business environment, allowing companies to estimate future costs with greater confidence. Frequent volatility, by contrast, can complicate financial planning and increase uncertainty. Financial institutions similarly monitor daily exchange data when assessing market liquidity and customer demand. Their observations contribute to broader assessments regarding the effectiveness of ongoing monetary measures and the overall health of Iraq's financial sector. Looking ahead, attention will likely focus on whether additional trading sessions confirm today's downward movement. If the dollar continues declining over several consecutive days, analysts may begin discussing a more meaningful trend. If prices instead return toward previous levels, today's decline may ultimately be viewed as a routine market adjustment. For now, the reported figures indicate that Wednesday opened with lower dollar prices across Iraq's principal currency markets. Baghdad's Al-Khifa and Al-Harithia exchanges recorded 153,300 dinars per $100, compared with Tuesday's 153,700 dinars. Exchange shops in Baghdad quoted selling prices around 153,750 dinars and buying prices near 152,750 dinars. In Erbil, selling prices reached approximately 153,150 dinars, while buying prices stood around 153,050 dinars. These numbers provide an important snapshot of current market conditions, but should be interpreted within the broader context of Iraq's evolving financial environment. Exchange rates naturally fluctuate as buyers and sellers respond to changing market conditions, and today's decline does not by itself confirm a lasting change in direction. As always, market participants, businesses, investors, and citizens will continue watching future trading sessions closely for additional signals regarding the dollar's trajectory. Stable markets benefit economic planning, encourage commercial activity, and support confidence among businesses and consumers alike. While today's movement is relatively moderate, it nevertheless reflects the continuous interaction of supply, demand, expectations, and liquidity that defines Iraq's parallel foreign exchange market. Ultimately, the coming days will determine whether Wednesday's lower opening marks the beginning of a broader easing trend or simply another normal adjustment within Iraq's active currency market. Until additional data becomes available, careful observation rather than speculation remains the most responsible approach for anyone following developments in the Iraqi dinar and the US dollar.